one definition of hospitality is to make space. So friend, could you scoot over and make space at your kitchen table to share a meal? Expand your heart to make space for a new relationship. Listen instead of talking, making space for others to be understood. This season, we'll learn from the ultimate host, Jesus Christ, and how he extended the welcome of the gospel to make space for all kinds of people. Well, we've been having fun in this series called Scoot Over, and I feel like I've been scooting over and scooting over and scooting over and learning all kinds of things. How about you, Susan?
Oh, yeah, squishy scooting over, squishing it over.
And today is a podcast about making room for other people to be on the team, right?
Yep.
So kind of like, what does it look like to have a team-based approach to hospitality and being on Team Jesus? And so I'm wondering, and I have so many stories, and I'm sure you do too, about how, maybe you were on the outside and somebody handed you like a towel, or they handed you a tablecloth, or they handed you a Bible study, and they said, "Hey, join my team." And all of a sudden you felt like you belonged. How about you?
Oh, yeah, because you know what those things mean? Somebody's going to text you. You're going to all of a sudden have things in your inbox like, oh, I have something that someone might want to talk to me about. I feel included, and you're part of something bigger than yourself. And I am really an introvert, but I love teams. And I used to not want to lead a team because I was scared of conflict and how would I manage that? That scared me to death. But my husband talked to me, said, no, this could be great. And I found it more than great. I found it life-giving to me as a leader. I found it to be better for my ministry, more than if I had just all the say and I just was making plans and taking volunteers to do it, my stuff. So I love a team. But yeah, just here, hold this. Put it on the team.
I think of all the people I've been on teams with for over 30 years of ministry, and how each one of them I've got their fingerprints on my life.
Yes.
And they showed me things through their unique giftings, through their, just the way they've trusted the Lord. And I think of one particular story that really was formative early on in ministry. We were planting a church and just seeking to try to take a lot of the principles that we talk about in women's ministry, and helping them to be integrated into all of life and into the DNA of our church.
Yeah.
And so I had a young woman in my church whose babysitter went on a mission trip. And she came to me and she said, this changed her life. And that's what she told me. So can we go on a mission trip?
Oh.
And I said, well, that'd be great. And I said, well, tell me more about like what you think a mission trip is, especially these were a lot of young believers. None of them had ever gone on a mission trip. She goes, well, it can't be too hard. And they can't speak another language. I can't be gone too long, like maybe just a long weekend. And, I don't want to feel like overwhelmed or out of my depth. And so I was like, I don't even know if that is a mission trip, but we did find a 3-day mission. We planned a 3-day mission trip to the Bahamas because we could just hop on a plane from South Florida and get over there. And here's where I'm going with it. We had talked about being a helper. We had talked about life-giving service. We had talked about Jesus being our reference point for sacrificial servant leadership. But it wasn't until we rolled up our sleeves and we were serving alongside one another that those words became truth embodied. Then it became alive to them. And so I think that's part of service on a team it's a discipleship opportunity. It's a gospel classroom where we're learning about all of these things. And so it's amazing that Jesus invited, unlikely people like us to be on his team.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're on some kind of team and you're like, I don't know how I got on this team.
That's the truth.
But I thought it might be fun to read 2 passages where Jesus calls unlikely people to follow him. So Susan, if you've got Matthew 4, why don't you read that for us?
Okay. While walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James the son of Zebedee and John his brother, in the boat with Zebedee their father, mending their nets, and he called them.
Love it. And another gospel narrative that talks about Jesus calling, just has a couple of other ideas we want to pull out. This comes from Mark 6, verse 7 through 13. It says, and he called the 12 and began to send them out 2 by 2 and gave them authority over the unclean spirits. He charged them to take nothing for their journey except a staff, no bread, no bag, no money in their belts, but to wear sandals and not to put on 2 tunics. And he said to them, whenever you enter a house, stay there until you depart from there. And if any place will not receive you, and they will not listen to you when you leave, just shake the dust that is on your feet as a testimony against them. So they went out and proclaimed that the people should repent. And they cast out many demons and anointed many with oil, many who were sick, and they healed them. So unlikely people who say, I'm not a, what does it even mean to be a disciple? What does it mean to follow Jesus? That's literally the definition. And one of the things that just really hits me in your passage is immediately they do it. Now, I'm the person who's like, okay, give me 5 weeks to make a plan and then get everything in order, and then maybe I will sign up. How about you? What other things are you pulling out from these past?
I'm a thinker before a doer. This shows that the Spirit, God was at work. And what I love is in the first passage, we see the 2 brothers with their father Zebedee doing their work, their family business. So I love how we have this idea of they were disciples of the fish business. Okay. Right. They had the formula for someone who knows more than me is teaching me how to do it so that when he's gone, I will do it. And I will teach it to my son. And that's what a family business is. Well, Jesus, as we know, he was calling them to be fishers of men, not fish. So he had to show them. He had to teach them because, frankly, they were not wired for this kind of discipleship. They were argumentative. They wanted to be the first. I'm not sure I would have picked these for my team because it made my leadership job harder. But Jesus is not just about getting something done. It's about changing people to be his ambassadors for his ministry to happen. And in the meantime, they are growing. They are loving God more. They are loving each other more. And they're going to get it after a lot of discipling.
Yeah. And it's so many great insights there because, I don't know what you think when you look in the mirror, like what is your primary identity? I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a bank executive. I don't know what it is, but, and I'm a single woman, whatever. Yeah. But they were fishermen.
Yes.
And that's what and so in the passage, it says they dropped their nets immediately. And so when we think like, I don't know if I want to sign up for this team because I don't have the skill set. Yes. Like I don't know that I can't do anything on your job description that you're writing here for me to be on your team. And yet they did it immediately. They followed them and they left their family. And Jesus invites them into a new family that he is creating and gathering. And they follow him. And that really is the essence of discipleship. When Paul says in 1 Corinthians 11:1, follow me as I follow Christ, or imitate me as I imitate Christ, it's the call of sacrificial, servant, life-giving leadership. And we see that it's compelling to these disciples. They do it.
They do it. And we see that even like there's a psalm, and it's in the 50s, I think. And it's a psalm, it sounds like one that was written for like when the king is getting married. And it's talking to the princess, the bride. So I'm hearing it like Jesus in the church. And in that song, the bride is encouraged, forget your people, forget your father, and come be part of this. And instead of a father, I'll give you sons. And instead of what your clothes were in your former life, I give you robes of righteousness and many colors. Like it's just this, what a trade. But for us in the here and now, that sounds like a crazy bad trade. It makes no sense. Don't you know the Zebedee's family was like, what is going on with them?
Right. And yeah, I mean, and how's that going to work out? Like this was their livelihood, right?
That's right.
This is their livelihood. And so, it really causes me to think like, what am I clutching onto? Maybe it's not fishing nets, but there might be things that I don't want to surrender because they're a security to me or they're part of my identity. And those are things that I don't want us to lay down in order to serve.
Yeah.
And part of what we've been talking about in hospitality is making that space for other people, but also for people to encounter Jesus. And so what we see here as these disciples are making space in their life, but they're surrendering every space of their life. Yeah. It's an all-in proposition. And so when you look at the passage that I read, anytime I'm recruited on any team, I'm kind of like, what's this going to mean? I'm scared. Like, what is? And so he starts the passage off is he calls them 2 by 2. In other words, it's not, the creation narrative, Genesis 2:18, it's not good for you to be alone. Or as Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 2 are better than one. Because if one falls down, because that kind of happens. We talked about stumbling on one of our series. Somebody's got to be there to pick them up, or if somebody gets cold, they kind of help you be warm. But the threefold strand is where it gets the strength when it's 2 who are connected to Christ. And so, but when I go on mission, I often want to pack my bag. I need this. I need that. What if this happens and I need that, and so he's like, hey, take nothing. Like, that seems like, is that really a great plan? There's no food. There's no money, you got some sandals. Don't even take a change of clothes. I mean, it just like, I don't even know how long this team commitment's going to be, but every time when we're sent out and we walk with Jesus, we have to take a step of faith. We walk by faith and not by sight. And we see them, Jesus just instructing them, let's keep it simple. Let's keep the main things, follow me, and everything's going to work out. Yeah.
And in that, they're basically the first test is, do you trust me? Am I enough? And that's the number one reason I don't want to go on a mission trip is because my control is gone. My control and me feeling comfortable and safe or secure or confident is gone, is at risk. So he really throws them in the deep end a little bit.
He does. And over the course of the gospel narratives, we see that they're all different.
Yep.
Some of them have perhaps more faith than others. Others stick closer to Jesus and others betray him. And yet, when I'm very cognizant that, Judas is in this group.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if Jesus paired them knowing who had what weaknesses or, because I do that, with my teams. Like I might say, okay, this thing needs 2, and will they get along? Will they shore each other up maybe? Or I don't know, just when I design a team, so to speak, for ministry, I do think how it will work together. So it's just very fascinating. I really would have loved to have seen how Jesus did all that up close.
Yeah. And I think we often see it as maybe team leaders or team formation, guides in the church. We often see it sometimes in the rearview mirror. But one of the things I love about teams is helping not only for discipleship to happen across generations. So we have older and younger women working together. So there's diversity on the team. There's diversity in generations. There's diversity in gifts. And for somebody to say, I can't do that, I need your help. And so over the course of maybe a year or 2 years as they serve together, the ideal is that they encounter the living Christ, that their spiritual formation happening on the context of the team. Does the team do tasks? Yes. But the primary goal of a team, being on Team Jesus, is spiritual formation. So let's talk about that for a second. How does investing in the Word of God and the people of God, like the eternal stuff, because again, they have nothing, they don't have any bread, they got no money, they got nothing else. It's the Word and people. How does serving shape us with other people?
Oh man. Well, this is the lagniappe part, the thing that's not written, that when somebody says, oh, that's a team, they think what is a team getting done. And a lot of what is happening is not what's getting done, but who is getting changed. And so being on a team changes people in that it's kind of like you have to learn to play together. You learn how to do conflict resolution. I think for a leader of a team, they have to be very cognizant that they are the ones keeping that space healthy. And so when some unhealthy thing happens, you have to discern it and step in and say something or correct it or even say, this isn't working. I mean, that's what's so scary about being a leader of a team is that you're kind of like the mama or the teacher of a room. And I remember being a student and the teacher didn't have control. I did not feel good. I was not comfortable. I couldn't do my job. I just was frantic on the inside. And then when you had a great teacher who had control of the room or a mother, like if you were spending night with somebody's house and it was crazy, like you just felt uncomfortable. I think a team can be like that. So I don't even know if I'm answering your question. I'm just waxing eloquent on teams, but I do feel like that the things that you're doing as a ministry team. So people have teams in businesses, great, but the team in a church is God's word is the standard, not business standards. Because we would be kicked out of every business school because we're giving up to get. We are letting go to have. We're doing all those things that Jesus modeled for us. And so being on a team kind of requires you to do that, even if you are the leader. I remember a time where I would prepare for team meetings and I had a list of here's what I think we should study for this semester. But I would bring it to the team, thinking they'll just say, okay, Susan, you're the leader. You do it, whatever, we're fine. They actually didn't want to do what I thought. And someone on the team said, I think it'd be great to do so-and-so instead. That's what we ended up doing. So as the leader, I had to be flexible. I had to really not use the team as I have a team on paper, but really, really, it had to work that way. Or they're not going to want to be on a team if they're just checking boxes for you.
Right. They're not just round pegs in a pegboard, like just to get, just to say we have a team, just to be able to advertise that but the function of it is this mutuality, this mutual. And when I recruit people to a team, I'm always asking them, is that your calling? Oh, and here's why, because we live in a world of radical individualism. Mm-hmm. It is much easier and sometimes faster to do it yourself.
Amen, sister.
Why do we even have teams? And so teams could be in a church, your family. We always signed our notes for Team Hodge. I mean, so your family's a team. It's just when two or more are gathered and working in the name of Jesus Christ, that's a team, right? Yeah. It's not so formal. But in a world of radical individualism, this is God's divine gospel classroom enrolls you in so that it's part of your sanctification. It's part of you becoming more conformed to the image of Jesus Christ. And when you look in, especially in Paul's epistles, you're not going to find any individual language. There is no you as in singular or I, me, mine kind of language. It's always we, our, or if you is there, it's like all y'all. It's
y'all. It's y'all.
It's plural. So living stones built together, members of the body or parts of the body, whichever translation you're looking at. And I think about what he says about the body is you can't look, if you're a foot, you can't look at the hand and say, I have no need of you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes functionally though, we go around people.
Yes.
And we say, what we're saying in our heart is you're on my team. We might say that with our lips, but in our heart, we're like, I have no need of you. I don't really need you.
Yeah.
And I don't need your insights. I don't need your gifts that God has entrusted to you. And so for you, back to your story, part of team kind of leadership and the joy of spiritual formation on a team is that you die.
Yes.
To your preferences. Yeah. You die to your agendas or your plans. And you come open-handed saying, Lord, shape this together. Like it's going to be a true better together kind of moment. Yes. And so when we think in terms of hospitality, have you ever had an experience where, let's say you're putting on a big dinner or you're putting together an event, or like it was a true better together moment, and you were able to recognize that, people have different gifts, and that's something that we get to glory in.
Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot when I am in a good frame of mind. Instead of seeing another, especially with women, if I do not see that woman with talent as a competitor, like that is really a risk in women's ministry, especially for women who like to lead or who called to lead. We think being called to lead means I'm in charge. And really, the biblical call to lead is to lead a group, which means you are just like a mother, just like a teacher. You are concerned. You know who needs to do what, who needs to be matched up. They're really, like there's this little girl in our church. I just see how big an artist she's going to be because of what she's doing. She's like creating flower things all the time out of nothing. She's drawing, and like you're going, man, this is unusual. So to see that in other women in your church, and I know how it felt when someone did that for me. I remember someone saying, you need to start learning everything in the Bible because you will teach one day. It was as clear of a call as I've ever had. But I know how that felt. So have I done that for someone else? Am I looking at these women, and especially new women who are trying to figure out their spot? I love seeing women's gifts being put just match to the right thing. The seat on the bus, just for them. And sometimes a woman may not feel like she's doing well at church, or she's not really good at that. So she feels like she's not good at anything. And I'm like, no. It's just that that is not your seat on the bus. Let's put you over here because I think that would make you thrive. But even more, especially more, is the ministry thrive because they don't have the right person on the bus over there either. So I don't know. I think you've got to have that eyesight to do it. And you have to pray for God to keep you from being self-centered and let you notice things. I don't know. It's a really fun game.
It is a fun game. And I'm thinking that this young woman is the woman who painted those things on the stage when I came to your church.
No, that is this girl is like 8.
She's 8. Okay. Well, anyway, I guess what I thought when I came to your church was, okay, Susan found a way for somebody to use their gifts to create the welcome of the gospel, like the colors drew you in. And so, I mean, whether you're picking up a paintbrush or you are the person who is the speaker up at the front or you're the greeter at the door, there are no small jobs. And all of these things work together, right, in a beautiful way. And it's not only beautiful when you make pathways for people to use their gifts, but you affirm them in their gifts. And I remember one time on a team that you and I both served on, they looked at me. It was probably 20 years ago, and I didn't know why I was there. I was like, how did I even get in this room? I don't even what in the world? And an older woman looked at me and she said, "You know what your job is in this room?" She said, "You're the synthesizer." And I said, "Oh, what does that mean?" She said, "Well, you listen to what everybody says, and then you pull it all together in a way that you have a next step. And so we look to you at the end to pull it all together." And I was like, I never thought about that, but it was so affirming that I began to listen in a different way.
Oh yeah. And
I would sit in a room because she affirmed that in my life,
Yeah.
And lots of times it's very fuzzy for me. So I'm always happy if there's another synthesizer around there with me.
Well, you do that. I've seen you do that. And I think also there's this sense of when you hear something like that, it's almost like, look, God has an army of us. And I do not know what the plan is, but I know my part of the plan is he put me over here by this fence and this gate. Or he had me in the kitchen cooking that for all the people who had to fight that day. Or maybe a very nobody would notice job. But to God, he has exactly where you need to be for his purposes. As a matter of fact, he's created them for you to walk in. He's made you exactly to sit on that bus in that spot. So I just think that's pretty fun.
That is fun. And it does. It shapes us over time. And there's no accident on who you're on a team with, because God has something to teach you from that person. Mm-hmm. And yet, if you've been listening along in the series, you may have heard Susan and I grumble or complain about things that have not gone our way. And sometimes it was because we were trying to do it by ourselves. And so that's why we're going to this whole team-based kind of idea today. And so I think Susan actually referenced this, one of the verses, but I'm going to read the whole context a couple weeks ago in 1 Peter chapter 4. And I'm going to start in verse 7. It says, "The end of all things is at hand. Therefore, be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Whoever speaks as one who speaks, oracles of God. Whoever serves as one who serves by the strength that God supplies, in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen." So what a wonderful doxology. But to get the context here about hospitality is, we don't know when Jesus is going to come back, and we should live like he's going to come back tomorrow, like with an eternal mindset, investing in the things that last forever. And he says, above all, love one another earnestly. That word just has such depth, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a selfless, fervent love, like that runs after other people, that makes space. That earnest love that is just a pursuing kind of love that we've been talking about in this entire series, right? And then he says, show hospitality to one another without grumbling. Why is that verse in the middle of all this, do you think, Susan? Then he talks about using your gifts to the glory of God. I mean, it kind of brings everything together we've been talking about.
No, this is a hard one. Okay, so I think kind of how it fits to me is he is saying, okay, your heart has just got to be bursting with just, I want to help this person. I want to love this person. This person is dear to me. And then that's all interior. Then all of a sudden, and what that looks like is you have them over, you go to their house, you give up time, energy, money. This is what that kind of love looks like. And that's when we go, oh, now I'm going to start grumbling. She doesn't deserve this. She's never called me before. She doesn't listen to me. She always talks about herself. I don't have time. I've got to feed my kids. What am I supposed to do? Am I my sister's keeper? I mean, the grumbling, man, I can keep on going with the grumbling.
It's too close to the surface for us.
It's too close for me right now. And it's just, of course, God has got to connect our hands to our hearts, and you can't fake it. You can't fake this kind of stuff.
Nope. It's a laying down of your life kind of stuff. It's very sacrificial. And that's what Jesus was inviting his team to. Hey, follow me. Where are they following Jesus? He's going to the cross.
Yeah.
So that we're going to talk more about that even next week. So that's what the invitation is, right? Mm-hmm. And so to show hospitality without grumbling is just this culture of generosity that we've been talking about all along. It's this sincere love. It's a love, like you said, that is doesn't have any guile. It has no hypocrisy. It's selfless. And what's the aim here? Because again, why have we been talking about this all along? It's really not to give you any other kind of creative ideas. It's all for the glory of God.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a very vain, as in vanity of vanities example to tell you about this. This is where God's been wrestling with me. And I just spoke in Florida to them that had been booked months ago, and they wanted me to talk about contentment, which I had done before. It's like one of my things I can pull out and do it. Oh, my word. I was in the most discontent space. I opened up that week to get my notes out. I'm like, what? I had to do contentment? I was so mad and like grumbling. But I needed to get back into that. Those words, the thought of it, because this is what was happening in my life at that time. And this sounds silly, y'all. So just be gracious to me. I'm just a silly girl from Mississippi.
You're in the gray zone.
I'm in the gray zone. So last year in my new neighborhood, which I want to show is what I'm saying to myself is I want to be part of this neighborhood. This is my outreach. This is how I tell my neighbors who may not even have walked into a church, like I want to love them, hospitality, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's obviously not just that goal, because when I look at everything that has to be done at my house before all these people come to my house in December for a tour, I'm very embarrassed. I'm struggling with how much I can do to my house. There's a huge staircase area, which is literally cracking so badly. We had a plumbing problem that dug up my flower beds in my driveway. So I'm looking at it going, I got to have some money to fix this. And all of a sudden, this is the crystallizing moment. All of a sudden, when I was teaching that retreat last weekend, I went, oh, is this tour for my glory or God's glory? Because God may be glorified in coming through a house where not everything's perfect on a tour. And they may go, I wonder why she'd be such a dummy as to let this slide. And they would maybe go, because she doesn't need your approval. She needs Christ's approval, and she's got it. That the other option of spending money I don't have is for my glory, for them to think my house is beautiful and that we are good stewards of it. And that just does not get God glory. And so I have been struggling with, is it my glory? Is it really? Because I can put lipstick on a pig and say, oh, it's for my neighbors, like outreach, or, oh, I just want to show like how God is blessed. Yeah, all the, you know what, you can put on it. And really, I got to where I was like, yeah, this is for my glory. And God's going to glorify himself in my weakness. And that looks like cracked ceilings right now and a tree that just got taken down and dead grass and a bad sprinkler head. So we're flooding. So that's what the tour is going to get if something doesn't intervene really soon.
Merry Christmas. Jesus is the reason for the season.
Yes.
And then you come into your house and, I mean, can't we all see Susan now that we've gotten to know her better? She's going to be, asking people, of course, to wipe their feet because they're going to walking through the mud into her house. But standing there at the bottom of the stairwell with something to offer them, but also a lesson in case they want to stick around. I can see her teaching at the bottom of her cracked staircase about this. But God tests us, right? Mm-hmm. Because this seems like a really short little verse in the middle of a lovely passage, and we just skim right over it. And then God enrolls us in a classroom. And I don't know if you went, I'm sure you probably did go there this past weekend to Philippians. I've learned the secret of being content. Wait a second. That sounds like a long class. That sounds like master's level. That sounds like PhD level. It's not like you just get it like this. It's you learn it.
And you have to learn it the hard way.
Learn it the hard way, and you get enrolled in these classrooms. And so what would it look like for us as we wrap up today? Like, in other words, one of the aspects how, not grumbling and teamwork goes together is if we make space for other people to use their gifts, make space for other people to share the load, make space for people to do it differently than us, make space to have a different result, or whether it's successful or not, give up our expectations.
Yeah.
How can we make space this week? And one of the things you said that was so brilliant a couple of weeks ago, you said, we got to figure out our why before our how. We were talking about sitting before we serve, right?
Yeah.
And so I think here is just, what is our why about this? Why is it for the glory of God? And how can we make space? And one of the things we talk about in our house is planned incompetence. And
I can't wait to hear this.
Intentional incompetence or planned incompetence. And so again, another Pastor Chrisism. And so he's like, he would come to me and say, I know you can do this, but you need to have planned incompetence so that you can say, you know what, I can't really do this without you. I need your help. Like, you don't come across as the expert all the time in every room. You need to come into the room saying, I need you. I need your help. And have this posture ready to say, hey, come serve with me. And it was a great lesson, especially I learned it. Well, I'm learning it, learning it But he introduced this concept to me when we were doing church planting, because it was a scratch church plant. It was just Chris and I and the kids. And he's like, you got to have some planning competence, so that somebody said, you know what? You don't know how to make coffee? I'll make it.
Yes.
You don't know how to really greet? I'll help you do the greeting. You don't need to be running around like Wonder Woman trying to do everything. So anyway, you need to have planning competence. So that was one way of making space. I don't know. How about you, Susan?
Yeah, it's that same idea of when you invite someone over to your house, they feel more at ease if you are more at ease with them being there. And so if I'm company and it's stiff and they don't want me to help at all, don't touch my kitchen, don't touch my stuff, my idea. No, you brought this? Great. I'll go put it away because I don't want it on my table. Like, that is hospitality without hospitality. But in a church, if church is like a family and like a house and you have someone new, the best way to feel accepted and like you're part of the family is knowing where the back door is and you have permission to come in. And that means you're going to be at ease in the kitchen. You're not stuck in the front room. And I've seen that at our church. We have this great worship service. And then people are like, but there's something here. I want it. How do I get past that glass wall? And we're telling our women, especially, because they're usually the ones who get this, where are our back doors? Because if you know where the back door is, that means you really belong there. You're not company anymore. You're part of the family. So that always makes me feel like that's true hospitality, is when the host sees me as I belong there. I'm not just a guest. And so I think this is great. I love this.
Yeah. Oh, I love this idea of backdoor hospitality. And just what would it look like for us to kind of reconfigure the way that people are entering in, so they're coming in as a family member. We're inviting, could you make the salad? Yes, you could.
Yes.
But maybe you invite somebody else to bring the salad, because if they bring a salad, then that gives them one more reason to show up.
Exactly. Like, they're depended on. Like, do not tell me an hour before you're not bringing that salad. No. Now that might be a fear-based model of teamwork, but I do think that, I don't know, I think a lot of leaders, and I'm speaking, I guess we're called leaders now. I think that a lot of leaders happen to be, let me just get it done because I can depend on myself and I don't have to be disappointed. I don't have to be panicked at the last minute. And that's all about managing my comfort level. And so as a leader in this, you got to risk things not being done the way you want. But that wasn't the goal, remember? The goal was Jesus's goal of people are being changed, not events are happening. So I had a horrible disaster. This is an example of what not to do. And we planned a new event in our church. This was my job before this. And we had it was going to be adorable. Like, it was a spring, instead of having a spring brunch, like, we were so sick of eggs at this point, after years of this, we're going to have a spring luncheon and a salad buffet. And not just like carrots and cucumbers and tomatoes, like a lot of different kinds of toppings for all sorts of salads. And then I remember when we were doing flowers and this, it was just so fun. We were having the best time. And someone was bringing the napkins and they did not match the decor. And I do not know if someone else who was in charge of it decided, or I okayed it, or if I don't know who the bad person was. I'm going to take credit as the bad one. We were like, yeah, those don't match. We're not going to ruin this whole tablescape by our sweet volunteer who took the time to just grab some napkins. Okay. That was a failure. Don't do that.
Don't die on the napkin hill.
Don't die on the napkin hill.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. That doesn't make your, you go, eat, poor Susan.
I am cringing, yes.
I'm cringing. Yeah, welcome to my world. I got another cringe story, but we don't have time for that. But anyway, it's just like, okay, lesson learned. That my goal, my glory, our team glory, we got caught up in what we thought was a win. And we were not looking with the sight of Jesus, the sight of Jesus. Look at him with the Samaritan woman. That was not on the disciples were like, what are you doing? And the whole thing is about her, not about the trip, not about who we're going to feed and who we're going to heal. It's about her. And Jesus, He was doing his work, his Father's work. So many times we don't recognize our Father's work. We see it how we want it to look like. And that was a bad move on my part. However, I was involved.
However you were involved. At the end of the day, it was your fault that the napkins.
The buck stops here, I have to say.
Yeah, but so, yeah, again, we got to make space for realizing that being on Jesus's team, which is being on mission with him, which is to serve and not be served for all for his glory, means that efficiency is going to go out the window.
Yep.
Convenience is going to go out the window. Us being comfortable, us having whatever tablescape, that's going to go out the window. And because he has a better plan.
Yes.
And all of this is about not only his glory, but conforming us to his image. And he does that in the context of community. That's his plan A for spiritual formation.
Yeah.
It's the class we were never going to graduate out of until we get to glory.
Nope.
And so, in case you're thinking, why am I still in kindergarten here? This is God's plan A to teach all of us what it looks like to welcome other people in the way that he's welcomed us. So thanks for listening in today. We have one more episode in this series, so tune in for the finale next week.
Finale sounds so fancy.
I know, finale.
Finale. See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Encourage podcast, where we have one aim: to bring the hope of the gospel to the hearts of women. We invite you to share this episode with a friend and keep the conversation going. And would you also consider giving to CDM to make this podcast available to women all over the world? The Encourage podcast is a production of CDM, the discipleship ministry of the PCA.